Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here today with Steven Tey, co-founder of Dub.co. We're going to talk a little bit about his journey so far, his philosophy around DevEx, and a little bit about Dub and Speakeasy. To kick things off, a little bit about myself. I'm Sagar, I'm CEO and co-founder of Speakeasy. I've been working on Speakeasy for just about 2 years now. Speakeasy is a platform that helps you launch and maintain amazing developer experience for your API so that you can serve your customers wherever they are, whatever runtime, language, and ecosystem that they're part of. So to kick things off, Stephen would love a quick intro from you. A lot of people probably know you, but always good to hear it from you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Steven. I'm the founder of Dub. Dub is essentially an open source link management platform that allows you to create anything from marketing campaigns to link sharing features and also referral links. So we actually started as a side project when I was still working full time at Vercel. And over time, I just sort of worked on it nights and weekends and realized there's some market potential behind it after talking to a lot of our users and eventually decided to take the leap of faith. It was a hard decision, but eventually, yeah, basically started a company around Dub, and now we're full steam ahead, and very excited to be here talking a little bit more about our journey when it comes to building our TypeScript SDK, hopefully more SDKs for different languages in the future with Speakeasy. So yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. Congrats on launching Dub this year, and you guys will come out and swinging, and it's awesome to see the progress. Dub really, I feel like you guys truly embodied the early days of startup, just shipping super fast, iterating, listening to customers. I love what you guys are doing. Diving a little bit deeper into your journey there, when you started working Dub at Vercel, um, what got you into domain shortening in particular? And like what kept you engaged in that space? Was there like an experience or a hook for you?
Sure. So it actually started with a very niche use case that I had, which is to be able to share links with really nice OG images. And basically, sometimes when you link to like a third-party site and they don't really have any, OG tags set up, you want to like overlay your own assets. That sort of use case was the precursor and what started Dub. And what got me captivated was sort of my interest in basically helping people um like the sort of pitch that we give is that links is the fundamental part of the web, right? Whenever you
Mm,
go online, you interact, you at least interact with thousands, if not more links per day. And we're trying to build infrastructure for people to be able to manage both, through a dashboard or programmatically, links, and also be able to turn links from being a simple resource locator, as in
hmm.
URL, to a full attribution engine. So understanding what happens after a click, does the user actually convert to sign up for an account, or do they upgrade to a subscription plan? Like all those different customer journey points, we want to help you visualize that. That's something we're still building, but sort of like the original premise was that very
Mm.
niche OG image. We actually have a very affectionate name for it. It's like Rick rolling, but for good, because you can literally put any OG tags in front of any link, so you could potentially Rick roll people. But yeah, that was the origin story.
I feel like that's something that every founder can relate to. Every founder when you start a company, like people agonize over the domain that they want for their company, right? And the link that you start with becomes so important to your trajectory and what you're doing and people to kind of recognize your brand. So I personally, as a founder, I really resonate with that too. So Stephen, one more thing on the company and the founding side of things. So like the story around why domain shortening and building a platform around all of that, it seems super compelling. How did you decide you wanted to found and build a company around that, as opposed to working on it as a project or within Vercel?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the sort of tipping point came about when I started talking to a lot of our users and realized that people were actually using Dub to track their affiliate links. So like these affiliate marketers, whether it's like software review sites or YouTubers would use our platform to track the clicks that they're generating for the brands that they partner with. And the affiliate space is actually a space that I'm somewhat familiar with because before Vercel, I actually was working on a different company that would partner with different domain registrars and would basically send traffic their way and then get affiliate earnings based on who, like if the user purchases domains. And I've had a lot of experience using platforms for affiliate tracking that are like really old school
Mm.
and legacy platforms. And I realized that there is a big room for disruption here, especially from like the developer experience side. Like all these platforms, literally, it's so hard for you to integrate into your own like your website or web app. So I wanted to build something that's developer focused at the same time also focused like starting from short links and then expanding beyond that. Like people might think, oh, it's just like a, like a short link service. Like literally every programming interview, first question is like,
Yeah, that's right.
but there's like so much that goes beyond that when it comes to analytics, when it comes to building SDKs for tracking when a user converts, after clicking on a link. So yeah, that was like sort of the tipping point. I'm like, wow, this is not just a side business. It could be $1 billion company. And that's why I'm like, okay, it's time to take a leap of faith and do this full time. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now that you're a couple months in after launching Dev, what would you think is your superpower so far as a company?
I would definitely say our open source community is really
Hmm.
powerful. Like it was very evident. This point was very evident when we did our product hunt launch last month, and it just blew everything out of the water. I had no like it just went beyond my wildest expectations. I was like, okay, maybe we'll get like number one product of the day. Eventually became number one product of the month. So I think the open source community and the sort of goodwill that we've built up that way is definitely a superpower for us. Obviously, the product itself is also much better in terms of user experience and developer experience than any
Yeah,
incumbents in this space. So that's definitely another one. But yeah, I think I'm very optimistic for the next couple of months because we have some really exciting features that we're launching that would basically take this to the next level. Like we're already on a pretty good like growth trajectory, but I'm confident that like the features we're gonna be launching and the customers we're working with, that's gonna like jumpstart the next level of growth. So yeah, I think that those are like the three factors I would say that give us our superpowers.
awesome. Your point on developer experience, I feel like we're in an age where there's a number of companies starting disrupting existing industries with developer experience as one of their core superpowers. So I'm curious, what does good developer experience mean to you? And I know that's like a very big question. So, like examples that stand out to you maybe, or like a hallmarks of what a good developer experience is.
Yeah, of course. I think there are a few factors that make up a good developer experience. Number one is definitely documentation, and this is something that Speakeasy does really well. You guys actually have really good like in-depth guides when it comes to building out open API specs or just like integrating it into your own like using it to generate SDKs, and much better than the competition, I would say. So docs is definitely huge. The second one would be TypeScript support. Obviously, if you're a JavaScript front-end developer or even like backend when it comes to like, building stuff out in Node, TypeScript, I realized like early on, I was like, I hated TypeScript. I was like, why is there so many roles? And I realized that TypeScript is not rules. It's actually documentation in a way. Like it
Right.
sort of guides you on what methods a function or like a constructor has. So TypeScript support is huge as well. And also, I would say a big open source community is also big because like something as simple as Googling for a bug that you run into in the console and finding an answer either through Stack Overflow or GitHub discussions or issues, that's another big one. There's a lot of these like AI, ask the docs and they generate feedback, but ultimately people Google. That's the first thing you do. So having that amazing like user generated content as well as docs like complementing
Hmm.
each other, those are definitely basically helps any product stand out from the competition. And I think that's something that Next.js did really well. Like when I was at Vercel,
Yeah.
Next.js just had such a huge open source content and community around it, such that like if you wanted to switch to like, a newer entrant into the market, it's hard because there's not a lot of content or a Stack Overflow threads that you can refer to. So yeah, it sort of reminds me of like Porter's Five Forces a little bit, but definitely like those three things that I mentioned are crucial when it comes to developer experience.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me that you brought up documentation, right? Um, I think for us, what's been really interesting, one of the early motivations for starting Speakeasy was that every company out there has an API reference guide, and that's it, right? Often the developer experience story for an API company stops with that classic three-pane Swagger reference, and then they don't give you much more, right? They don't give you guides, a more user-generated or kind of team-generated content. How do you do API keys? What about an SDK? Like these all things around the API that are just as important. Yeah, I fully agree that like documentation is such a core part of developer experience, and I think it's almost been like miscategorized or the bar has been too low for what good docs are for a long time. Like just putting up a three-pane API reference, yeah, I think is not quite there.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
Mintify is a company that's like pushing the needle here, where they allow you
that's right.
to have like a playground, and we actually use them alongside our SDK documentation. Sorry, our SDK with Speakeasy. So there's definitely a lot of like companies like Mintify that's pushing the needle in the space. Another thing I want to mention is a little bit more like, I guess, less deterministic in a way, where whenever you interact with an API, there are these like strict like type, especially if you use Dot, right?
Mm,
That they will return an error if this doesn't match a certain format. Something that we've been trying to explore a little bit is going the extra mile. Like for example, we recently added like a smart date time parser support into like one of our fields, which is like the expiration date for a link. So when you interact with the API, if you just pass like 5 hours from now, it would still work because like we parse that on the back end, and like basically it convert that into like a date format. So
mm,
having like basically what I'm trying to say here is allowing users to interact with your backend in a natural language manner, whether it's through your dashboard or through an API. That's also, I feel like that's the next level when it comes to the developer
yeah,
experience. And yeah, I'm very excited to like obviously there's like a lot of like edge cases you got to think about, but I think like users will be delighted if you like go the extra mile here.
absolutely. I think you're giving me some great ideas for our roadmap on what we could do. We've thought about, exposing like natural language endpoints in every SDK so you could actually just pass text, but get back JSON that matches a particular set of types. So yeah, I feel like it's very early days. Like obviously there's, very exciting demos online and people obviously showing off a lot of amazing products in generative AI, but bring that to like production use cases and actually, embed it in people's docs and things like that. I feel like there's still tons of innovation that needs to happen.
100%.
Um, yeah. Um, One more question on DevEx. Like, if you had to think about a couple metrics that you would start measuring for your own product, to measure the developer experience, what would those be for you?
Damn, that's a hard one. That was actually something that we struggled with a bit when I was at Vercel, to sort of like how do you quantify all these efforts that you're putting into the developer like experience when it comes to docs, the yeah, just improving the experience for developer. So I don't know. I think I would say like um, a lot of these are probably qualitative, like having user interviews and like hearing from actual developers saying, "Oh, that was super intuitive.
Mhm.
Like I was able to hook this up in a matter of like less than 10 minutes." That's gonna be huge too. So I think trying to find like a quantitative approach to this might be a little challenging, but I do think there's like if you give me like a few minutes to think, I can probably come up with a few like um I don't know. it's a little tricky, I would say. Like it's very qualitative, right? It's about time to implementation. That could be like a rough metric that you have, like time to a user actually creating a POC and then like implementing it in production. And one thing you could potentially do is have like telemetry data to assess like how many times a user runs into like a bug and an error. We used to have those like anonymized telemetry data in Next.js to sort of understand like
Yeah.
what sort of the pitfalls that the users are running into. One of the most famous ones you probably know is like the the React suspense. What's it called? Like uh the content on the server does not match the HTML on the clients. Like there's this whole meme around it. Anyways, so long
Yeah.
story short, telemetry could help, but I would say it's definitely still a lot of qualitative like, interviews and understanding what users actually saying. Um, yeah,
Yeah. That makes sense to me. I mean, we talk about this a lot at Speakeasy as a developer experience company, and one of the things we keep landing on is that great developer experience is really just like capturing opinionation, right? It's like trying to find the opinionation, especially in language like TypeScript, right, where there's more loose ends, so to speak. Like, what is that the average, the median like thought that the ecosystem is, and how can you like embody that in your product? So I completely agree. It's so hard to measure. One metric that has come up for us is the idea of time to 200 for an API. So like how quickly does an API enable you to go from zero, not zero, but from like nothing to your first 200 response? And is that 200 response like enough to get value? Like is it creating a payment, or like what exactly is it that you're deriving value from?
nice.
Yeah, so totally agree. This is definitely like a heated topic of debate for us internally, but I think the jury's still out on how do you measure developer experience. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
that's a great heuristic, time to 200. I was thought about that, but it makes sense.
Um, cool. I want to use the last few minutes just to really kind of double click on how Dub and Speakeasy work together. You know, just for everyone here, Dub has an amazing API. One of the ways that you can integrate with it, and you guys are my understanding, promoting that more and more as the way to like grow, all of the different features that Dub has. What is your vision for your API, and how do you want it to become a part of your product as you grow?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we definitely see ourselves as a developer first to an extent. Like, even though we're like a marketing tool, there's a lot of programmatic usage when it comes to link shortening. Like, one
Hmm.
of our, like, I would say, I wouldn't say like ideal customer profile just yet, but like one of our existing customer profiles is people who use it for like SMS campaigns or, just generating login links using our API. And and we were fortunate enough to actually get the dub namespace on npm early on, so we were able to launch like our TypeScript SDK using dub. And as a result, like because we have really good like documentation just for like the vanilla REST API, people have been building actually over the weekend. Someone built like a Dart SDK for Flutter, um, using our API. So that's really cool to see, and just building this ecosystem of people that are interested and enjoy using our API is definitely our huge focus. One thing that comes to mind is definitely building integrations as well, just
Hmm.
exposing like building like an OAuth flow for people to integrate with Dub. Like for example, you're on, I don't know, WordPress and you want to add Dub to automatically create short links for your post every time you create one, and then post it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. That's a great use case, and basically building like a modular OAuth flow that people can integrate with. That's also a big thing that we're going to be focused on. But like at the end of the day, it's building the best developer experience for people that integrate with Dub. Um, is definitely one of our strongest go-to-market strategies, because
Okay.
larger companies that actually spend a lot on Dub are companies that use it programmatically. So getting that initial developer buy-in is going to be huge for like a lot of our self-serve motion. Um, Especially as we're small, like we don't have the bandwidth to take on like 5 enterprise calls per day. So like having that strong documentation and self-serve motion, um, it's gonna really help move the needle in the early stages. And I think that's something that Speakeasy does really well. Like we almost didn't have to like jump on a call to debug anything with you guys. It was all either answering the documentation or asynchronously over Slack. So I think a lot of this like it might be a lot of effort to create this documentation and invest into DX, but it pays dividends in the long run. So that's something that we're definitely focusing on uh, for the next couple of months, 2 years.
That's awesome to hear. It's so cool that you guys are doing that investment so early in your journey as well. Like we obviously work with companies of different sizes, and we seek out, more often than not, it's companies that have gotten PMF and are scaling and have a true sprawl of APIs, then coming to us and trying to get help to kind of govern the API landscape, right? And that DevEx on top of it. And is possible to do that, and there is a way to there's a migration story, but it's obviously harder, right? And there's more risks of churn and friction for your end users as you kind of bring them into a new world. So I'm truly, excited for you guys and the growth of your API as you get bigger. One more question on SDK. Yeah, but one more question on SDKs. How did you decide to use Speakeasy to maintain your SDKs versus like enrolling yourself for using an open source generator? Yeah, like why vendor this part of your product?
Yeah, the decision was fairly simple. It came down to if you wanted to pay an engineer to actually do it, and versus if you wanted something that is scalable and you can constantly hook up to your CI/CD, and every time you have a new endpoint or change like a small TypeScript definition in one of your endpoints, it automatically updates and you don't have to worry about, oh, damn it, we forgot to update this, I don't know, Go SDK from like 5 months ago. Um, so like having like an automated flow that we were able to set it up using GitHub Actions connected to our main Open API spec, and also like hook it up to our open source, the TypeScript SDK repo. So like having all of this like pieces in place, it really helps us move fast without worry about, either backwards compatibility or having like an outdated
Mm.
version of one of our SDKs. And now that we have our TypeScript SDK up, adding more SDKs is simply just a flip of a switch on Speakeasy. So I'm very excited to keep doing that as we talk to more users and realize like, oh, maybe one of our enterprise customers wants a Go SDK, and then we'll invest into that. So yeah, definitely saving a lot of time and having like an automated peace of mind sort of setup with Speakeasy was definitely a huge selling point for us.
That's awesome to hear. We're super excited to be supporting you guys. Just to close things up, one for the fans. What should we keep an eye out with Dub for the next few weeks? What's the exciting secret that you could share with us that's coming up?
Yeah, we're actually doing a launch for our APIs pretty soon. It's been on like public beta for like the longest time. Um, Not actually that long. It was like probably like 8 months. Some companies have public betas for like 4 years. So yeah, it's been in public beta for a while. We've iterated, like made some breaking changes, but also like added stuff for backwards compatibility. But we're planning to do a proper launch for that pretty soon. And the TypeScript SDK is gonna be the main like star of the show, and it's the one that's generated by Speakeasy. So very excited for that. So yeah, keep an eye out, and we have a few more exciting features coming soon, but I don't want to spoil too much. I think that's the API.
Awesome. Steven, thanks so much for chatting, and super excited for everything coming for Dub.co.